Every year, the average American eats about 65 apples. That is roughly $80 a year on a fruit most of us think we understand. But here is the truth the produce aisle does not want you to know. The apple you picked up last week might have been sitting in a controlled atmosphere warehouse for over 12 months before it ever touched that shelf. It was not selected because it tastes good. It was selected because it survives a supply chain designed to move fruit across continents without a single bruise. The apple industry is a $4 billion a year machine, and the engineering priority is not your taste buds. It is shelf life, shipping durability, and cosmetic perfection. The United States Department of Agriculture grades apples as extra fancy, and number one based entirely on color, shape, and skin condition. Flavor is not part of the grading system. Sugar content is not measured. Acidity is irrelevant. An apple can be 14 months old, completely tasteless and mealy to the core, and still earn the highest grade in the country. I spent over 40 hours auditing every major apple variety on the shelf to find the truth, and the results were not what I expected. To understand why most supermarket apples taste like sweetened cardboard, you need to follow the money. Growing a flavorful apple is expensive. Varieties bred for complex flavor tend to bruise easily, have shorter shelf lives, and ripen unevenly. That is a logistics nightmare. A flavor-first apple might last 2 weeks from harvest to your kitchen counter. An industrial variety can survive 6 months in controlled atmosphere storage, 2 weeks on a distribution truck, and another 2 weeks on the shelf. That is a 500% logistics advantage, and your taste buds pay the price. Controlled atmosphere storage is the industry's greatest magic trick. They seal apples in rooms with almost no oxygen, drop the temperature to just above freezing, and slow the ripening process to a crawl. The apple stays firm and cosmetically perfect, but the volatile compounds that create aroma and flavor complexity break down over time regardless of temperature. What you get is a fruit that looks like an apple, crunches like an apple, but tastes like a memory of one. Then there is the wax. Most commercial apples are coated in shellac or carnauba wax after harvest. This is perfectly legal. The stated purpose is to replace the natural wax removed during washing, but the real purpose is cosmetic. A waxed apple shines under fluorescent grocery store lighting. It photographs well, it sells. Whether it tastes good is simply not part of the equation. The skip list. Let us start with the 6 varieties you should walk right past. Number 1, Red Delicious. This is the apple that ruined apples for an entire generation. Originally discovered in Iowa in 1872, the Red Delicious was once a genuinely good apple, but over 100 years of selective breeding optimized it for one thing only, that deep dark red color and elongated shape. By the 1990s, it accounted for 75% of Washington State's entire apple production. The marketing calls it sweet and crisp. The reality is a thick, waxy skin wrapped around a mealy, cottony interior with almost no acidity and a flavor profile that can only be described as vaguely sweet. This apple is not grown for your mouth. It is grown for a camera. Number 2, Gala. The Gala is now the #1 selling apple in America, and that should concern you. Originally bred in New Zealand as a cross of Kids Orange Red and Golden Delicious, it was brought to the American market for its early harvest window and uniform cosmetic appearance. The label says sweet and mild. In the produce industry, mild is code for bland. Gala apples have extremely low acidity, which means there is nothing to balance the sugar. The result is a one-dimensional sweetness that fades to nothing on the palate. After months in controlled atmosphere storage, what little complexity it once had is gone entirely. You are paying for a name and a color, not a flavor. Number 3, Fuji. Developed in Japan in 1962 as a cross of Red Delicious and Rawls Janet, the Fuji is marketed as the super sweet apple. And technically, that is accurate. It carries one of the highest sugar contents of any commercial variety. But sweetness without acidity is like volume without bass. It is loud but completely empty. The Fuji's thick skin and dense flesh make it a shipping champion. It can sit in controlled atmosphere storage for up to 12 months and still feel firm in your hand. But the aromatic compounds that create actual flavor depth are long gone by the time it reaches your cart. The industry loves the Fuji because it is nearly indestructible. That is not a compliment. Number 4, Macintosh. This one hurts because the Macintosh was once a legitimately great apple. Discovered in Ontario, Canada in 1811, it was beloved across the entire Northeast for its bright, tart, deeply aromatic flavor. The problem is that the Macintosh has terrible shipping durability. It goes from crisp to mealy within days of leaving cold storage. The version you find in a grocery store in February is a ghost of what it was in September. If you can get a Macintosh straight from an orchard in the fall, it is a completely different fruit. But the supermarket version has been betrayed by a supply chain it was never designed to survive. Number 5, Golden Delicious. Despite the name, the Golden Delicious is not related to the Red Delicious. It was discovered in West Virginia in 1914 and has been marketed for decades as sweet, mellow, and all-purpose. The reality is that the Golden Delicious bruises if you look at it wrong, so commercial growers pick it significantly underripe to survive the shipping process. An underripe apple has not developed its full sugar content or its aromatic profile. What arrives at your store is a pale, rubbery fruit with thin skin that wrinkles in storage. The industry's real use for Golden Delicious is not as an eating apple. It is as a breeding parent. It has been crossed into dozens of modern varieties. Its value is genetic, not culinary. Number 6, Granny Smith. The Granny Smith originated in Australia in the 1860s and has been marketed for generations as the tart, crisp baking apple. But tartness without any sweetness is just sourness, and most commercial Granny Smiths are harvested early for maximum shelf life, which pushes the acidity even higher while killing any developing sweetness. After months in controlled atmosphere storage, the flesh develops a waxy, almost soapy mouthfeel that is distinctly unpleasant. The Granny Smith survives global shipping routes that would destroy a lesser apple. That is its only job. Tasting good is not part of the job description. You do not need a laboratory to audit your apples. You need 30 seconds and your own senses. First, the snap test. Hold the apple close to your ear and take a bite. A fresh, high-quality apple produces a loud, clean snap. You can actually hear the cells breaking open. A mealy apple, one that has been sitting in storage too long or was picked before it was ready, produces a dull, muffled sound. If there is no snap, there is no buy. Second, the aroma test. Flip the apple over and smell the blossom end. That is the bottom. A flavorful, recently harvested apple will give off a noticeable fruity aroma, sometimes floral, sometimes almost like honey. An apple that has been in controlled atmosphere storage for 8 months smells like absolutely nothing, or worse, faintly of cardboard and wax. If you cannot smell it, you will not be able to taste it either. Third, check the PLU sticker. That 4-digit code identifies the exact variety. Look it up on your phone right there in the store. More importantly, check the country of origin. If you are buying an apple in North America in October and it was grown in Chile or New Zealand, that fruit has been traveling and sitting in storage for months. Seasonality still matters even for something as common as an apple. The real list. Now for the 3 varieties that prove an apple can still be grown for your taste buds instead of a shipping container. Number 1, Honeycrisp. The Honeycrisp was developed at the University of Minnesota and officially released in 1991 after decades of painstaking crossbreeding. It was bred with a single explicit priority: eating quality. The cells inside a Honeycrisp are exceptionally large compared to other commercial varieties, and that is what creates its signature explosive crunch. No other apple on the shelf replicates that texture, but the real breakthrough is the flavor balance. Honeycrisp has high sugar and high acidity working in tandem. That dual combination is what separates complex, layered flavor from one-dimensional sweetness. Sweet on the front of the bite, tart on the finish, with floral aromatics threading through the middle. It typically runs $3 to $4 per pound, and it bruises far more easily than the industrial varieties we just covered. That is exactly why the industry resisted it for years. But consumer demand forced the market's hand, and Honeycrisp is now the 3rd best-selling apple in America. It earned that position entirely on flavor. If you buy one variety from this list, make it this one. Number 2, Cosmic Crisp. This is the apple that took 20 years to develop. Created at Washington State University as a cross of Enterprise and Honeycrisp, the Cosmic Crisp was released in 2019 with a mission that should have been the default priority for every apple breeder in the country: breed for flavor and durability at the same time. It delivers on both: high sugar levels, well-balanced acidity, and a dense, shattering crunch that actually holds up for months in storage without the flavor degradation that plagues industrial varieties. The distinctive starburst pattern of lenticels across the skin is where the name comes from. Pricing has dropped to roughly $2 to $3 per pound as Washington growers ramp up production. The Cosmic Crisp is the rare apple where the marketing actually matches what is inside the skin. It tastes nearly as good in March as it does in November, and almost nothing else on the shelf can make that claim. Number 3. Sweet Tango. The Sweet Tango is a cross of Honeycrisp and Zestar, also developed at the University of Minnesota, and released in 2009. It is a club apple, which means production is tightly controlled by a network of licensed growers. That limits supply, but it maintains a level of quality that open market varieties simply cannot guarantee. The flavor profile is unlike anything else in the produce aisle. There is a rich honey sweetness up front that transitions into a citrus-like tang on the finish, almost like a mandarin orange note layered onto the crunch of an apple. The Brix to acid ratio is among the highest of any commercially available variety. Sweet Tango is strictly seasonal, primarily available from late August through October, and it does cost a premium. But if you can find it during that window, you are eating what pomologists and food scientists widely consider to be one of the finest eating apples ever developed. The limited availability is not a flaw. It is the reason the quality stays this high. 6 varieties engineered for warehouses, distribution trucks, and fluorescent lighting. 3 varieties that prove what an apple actually tastes like when someone breeds it for your mouth instead of a shipping container. The apple industry spends billions every year engineering fruit that survives a 12-month supply chain. They wax it, gas it, chill it, and grade it on everything except the one metric that should matter most: flavor. And the USDA lets them stamp it extra fancy the entire time. Your grocery budget is not a subsidy for agricultural logistics companies. You deserve to know what you are actually paying for. Next time you are standing in the produce aisle, flip the apple over, smell it, snap it, check the sticker. The answers are right there if you know where to look. The food industry lies because you let it. Subscribe because you have the right to know the truth.